I'm going to start this off with an apology. In my last Hyliion video, I mentioned that Hyliion was going to have a big week this week. And in that, I meant the earnings call. If you listen to that earnings call, the same earnings call I listened to, then I am very, very sorry. I am a Hyliion shareholder. I have a whole playlist saying very bullish things about the company. And so I and my YouTube channel would benefit very greatly if I did nothing but say great things about this quarterly report. However, this is stock overflow. I mean, on this channel, even with stocks I like, if they have a bad earnings report, if they have a bad quarter, like, we're gonna talk shit about it. I mean, I love Cisco. They had several bad quarters last year. I talk shit. Hyliion is gonna get the same love. So this is the written version of their first quarter 2021 business updates. Now, if you read this, then you already know most of the picture. The earnings call mostly reiterates the same things. However, there are a few key things that you can only get from that earnings call. Now, let's get the good out of the way first. Now, most of the stuff, if you've been following Hyliion, you already knew, but we're going to talk about it because it is pretty good. They announced the formation of the Hypertruck Innovation Council, which is pretty much a collaboration of a lot of big names in the logistics and transportation industry to come together and help Hyliion develop the Hypertruck ERX. So that is a good step, and that is a pretty good step in the formation of this, and the organic formation of this growing company. They took delivery of their Peterbilt chassis, which will be used for the initial Hypertruck demo fleets. We already knew that, but that's good to know. They continue the multi-phase product development program used to reach commercialization of the Hypertruck ERX electric powertrain solution. Now, this we already knew, but one of the good things I want to point out here is they are not delaying the Hypertruck ERX. So the bottom 2 points, we're going to read it, and then, yeah, we're going to get into this. So they installed 10 hybrid electric powertrains during the first quarter, continuing deployment of the technology to prepare for volume growth. So that's a little concerning. And then they expect to recognize revenue on improved hybrid products delivered in the second half of the year. So yeah, let's talk about the hybrid and that revenue. Now, I took some notes during the conference call, which revealed some more information, so I'm going to keep looking away here. So we got to sort of talk about the hybrid and the recognizing revenue things sort of together, because they come together to sort of make my point. So Sherry Baker, the CFO, I think that's the one who said this. So they're not going to recognize revenue until the second half of this year. Now, I would like to see revenue this quarter. I also would like to see it last quarter. Now, they mentioned last quarter that they completed their goal of installing 20 hybrid units, but they didn't recognize revenue then. They also stated that they installed 10 of the hybrids, but they're also not recognizing revenue in that. Sherry went into a little more color with that. So I'm going to paraphrase what she said a little bit. So they're working with these deployments together with the companies that took them in order to develop a commercially viable product in which they will start to recognize the revenue from later this year. She said, in paraphrase, that they aren't recognizing revenue yet because they are working on having a commercially viable product. So that means, are they telling me they don't have a commercially viable product now? What you're looking at right here is a slide of their investor overview, which they gave to investors last year in June 2020. Hybrid electric availability today. This is a product that you can supposedly buy today. Watch this. Here is the summary financials from that same page, along with their estimates. Now, I know estimates aren't promises, but these are things that they told investors last year. These aren't goals set by investors. These are goals set by Hyliion and told to investors. So yeah, investors are going to expect this. Hybrid electric units sold. The key word is sold. 300 for 2021. 20 for 2020. Revenue, 1 million for 2020. 8 million for 2021. So before I get to my next point, I know I have a lot of very bullish Hyliion viewers out there. Even more bullish than me. Far more bullish than me. If you don't believe what I'm about to say, you can always listen to their earnings call. It's available right now. So Sherry mentioned during this segment that the reason they haven't recognized revenue is that they have been working with these companies. So I imagine the companies that they installed the units for, the 20 units for last year, and then the 10 units that they installed in 2021 for this quarter, which I'm assuming is NGV Global Group. They've been working with them to create that viable product. So what I'm gathering from that is that all these units that Hyliion is developing for these companies are not being sold. There's no revenue being exchanged. Now, I need to stress that that information by itself, utilizing potential customers to test out their hybrid solutions and, gain feedback and improve their selling process and the manufacturing process, that by itself is fine. And it would continue to be fine if Hyliion didn't make all those claims to investors a year ago. But they did promise that. I mean, these are units sold. So last year, that was probably a miss. Now, this quarter they sold 10, so they only have 290 more to go. Now, they're expected to go into volume production of their newly formed hybrid units in the latter half of this year. So maybe they'll make up the other 290 or somewhere closer to the other 290 by the end of the year, but we'll have to see. Editing Matt here. One thing I forgot to point out is that while they were talking about their hybrid electric and coming out second half of this year, is they have seen some production delays in that product due to lessons learned during design and testing. Now, they haven't told us exactly what those lessons were, but those delays are a little troubling. So I know I just made a big deal about that. Now, that's not the end of the world for the company. I know that, lots of companies go through growing pains when they're first starting out in their, first couple of years as a public company and whatnot. But they did make those claims, so I do have to chalk that up as a miss. Now, they didn't release financial statements along with this business earnings report, but given that they're not reporting revenue, I'm not really expecting much. I'm pretty sure their balance sheet is still going to remain pretty strong, so I'm not really worried about that. But I will check it out when it comes out. Another good thing about the earnings report is that Thomas Haley, the CEO, he really knows how to sell the technology aspect of this product. Like the way he explains it about the future of RNG and their eventual transition to hydrogen, and how plentiful the current infrastructure is going to be for RNG and hydrogen is going to be. Like he really continues to make me a believer of the product itself, both the hybrid and the Hypertruck. So I do believe that this business model is very strong, and if it comes to fruition, that Hyliion, the project itself is going to be fantastic. Now, for the Q&A section of the earnings call, I didn't really feel they were very confident in their answers. Like most of the answers to the questions asked were pretty much non-answers. There was I'm gonna look here to my notes. There was a question about how quickly they were expecting to go gross margin positive once they actually start moving units, and they didn't answer that. They didn't answer that. There was also a question about revenue recognition, Q4 versus Q3, as when that's actually a more precise, more precisely when they're gonna see that revenue, and the answer to that was yes. So no clear answer with that either. And there was also a further question about the ongoing lag between delivery of the products and stuff, of the trucks and stuff, and recognition after that. In which case, there wasn't a clear answer to that as well. There were some more questions based on financials, but Sherry couldn't answer because they were waiting on the 10K to get refiled before they can come clean with any financial information. So, and finally, there was a question that attained to their possible need to raise more capital later on down the line if things maybe don't shake out, and there was no clear answer on that as well. I think that was a pretty mediocre quarterly report, both the report and the conference call, but that's not enough to shake me away from Hyliion itself. All companies go through lackluster quarters, and this quarter, this shows Hyliion's growing pains, lessons learned, and it growing as a company. So I'm still bullish on it long term, especially with the Hypertruck ERX. That seems to be business as usual. The Hypertruck ERX still seems to be on its way to completion, which will happen at the end of 2021 and commercialization in 2022. Now that is when Hyliion will probably make it or break it. So we're gonna have to wait till then and to see how this project blossoms. So what am I doing with Hyliion now? Now I said this on several videos on Hyliion that the share price, we can't let the drop in the share price determine how good or bad the earnings report was. As you can see, this was a very devastating day in the market. Like, if you look at my portfolio right now, I am getting crushed on everything. Like, even growth stocks, value stocks, I am equally getting destroyed. Like, I just dropped down to 48 grand. But anyways, back to Hyliion. What am I doing? I mean, nothing. Nothing at all. My position is built. Now, normally in this case, if I was down this much, I would start loading the boat. But, I mean, given its earnings report, Hyliion is still a spec stock in my book. And as a spec stock, I mean, my position is done. I have about $2,600 deployed, and that's where it's going to stay. I'm not buying anything. I'm not selling anything. So I know a lot of people in the comments are going to ask, what were you expecting with this earnings report? It's just Q1. Well, I sure as hell wasn't expecting this. Like I said, I'm still long on Hyliion. I'm still bullish. I'm still holding on to them, at least for the next year. But I don't think that was the best earnings report in the world at all. But anyways, take care. Have a good day, and eat your vegetables.